All right, let's talk about the Los Angeles Rams getting ready for the Monday night playoff matchup against the Minnesota Vikings. Interesting matchup on both sides, some great schemes and great strategies. But it looks like Sean McVay, head coach of the Los Angeles Rams, is setting his team up for a lot of success with a really smart move that I think could give this Rams team a big advantage. Big news out of LA. But first, I'm Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, heading into this matchup, when it comes to the Rams offense, the big question is how do they counteract, I'll say, devious defensive coordinator from the Minnesota Vikings, Flores, Brian Flores, one of the great defensive minds in all of football. He throws a lot of different looks at you. He's a very smart, savvy guy, but I think the Rams and, of course, head coach Sean McVay are making a smart move to approach this situation. Let's pull up this report and we'll talk about it more on the other side. This is courtesy of Yahoo Sports. As the Los Angeles Rams game plan for the Minnesota Vikings, head coach Sean McVay is the latest play caller to ask himself, what would Brian Flores do? When the Rams and Vikings played each other October 24th on Thursday Night Football, a strange trend occurred. They barely pressured, talking about the Vikings, Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford, despite Stafford posting his worst completion percentage against pressure, 44.6%, since Next Gen Stats began tracking the data in 2018. The Vikings pressured him on just 11.8% of his dropbacks, very against tendency there, the lowest they posted since at least 2018. McVay isn't relying exclusively on a traditional offensive staff to build a game plan and analyze likely outcomes. He's also employing former Chicago Bears and Philadelphia Eagles defensive coordinator Sean Desai. To help himself in Flores' shoes, McVay has asked Desai to do just that. Desai's role comes in handy here as he sends the offensive staff a weekly scouting and tendency report. Then he tests McVay and company in practice this week, charged with anticipating Flores' best crack at advancing past the wild card. All right, long story short here, what McVay is doing is he's not just employing a scout team. He's not just employing, just a look squad to get his players ready. He's employing a scout coach, a look coach to figure out a way to see what Flores will do to this Rams offense, which I think is a really smart move. Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on all of this. But first, Rams fans in the comment section below. Obviously, as we're heading into this Monday night matchup, what's the one X factor that no one's talking about? What's a player that you think will have a huge role on the game that no one is talking about? We know about the stars. We know about Cup, Stafford, all these kind of guys. But who's one player no one is talking about that you think will have a huge impact on this game? Put them in the comment section below. But Miles, what are your thoughts on this latest news for the Rams?
Yeah, Nick, I think this strategy is very interesting, and I think it's a large part of why the Rams are so good, especially offensively. Because if you go through a traditional NFL practice, through the offensive side of things, the offense will have a play. This is the play we want to run against cover two. The defense will show a cover two defense, and they'll run the play against cover two. Boom, works. Perfect situational football for the offense. Again, if it's cover three, whatever the case may be, quarters, whatever, they send their perfect offense out against the defense that they would want to practice against. In this situation, though, a little further in the article, it tells you about how McVay plans to implement Desai and how he's been doing it all season and really just getting in the mind of Flores and having Desai call live plays against the looks that the Rams offense is putting out at practice, which is something that's not ordinarily done in a traditional NFL practice. It's like you said, it's not a looks anything. This is like live coach on coach type of stuff. Desai's really trying to embody. He's the scout team defensive coordinator, basically. He's out there trying to emulate what a Brian Flores would do against this Rams offense. I think that's a really smart move, something other teams maybe could implement going down the road because everyone also, already implements everything the Rams and Sean McVay does. Anyways, this might be the latest move that they have done that I think is really, really smart. It just happened this year, and they've started ramping it up as the season goes on. But I think in this instance, like the article said, Flores does some really weird stuff, especially to get in offenses' heads. Like you said, they pressured Stafford lower than anyone has ever pressured a team for the Vikings, especially this season, especially in I think 2018, they said was the lowest amount they've ever pressured him. But yet he had a really bad performance in that game. He's able to get in their heads here. So having a guy that's able to get in your head and practice early on going to help counteract when it comes game time. Smart move by McVay and co. They're going to possibly make a really deep playoff push because of this. is a really great strategy, and I hope it can come to fruition this weekend.
Yeah, because it's important to understand whenever you kind of alluded to it there, when you're preparing for an opponent, a lot of times, virtually every team. Look, I played mid-level college football. It's very similar in terms of preparing for an opponent, as you'll see in the National Football League. Obviously, different level of competition, but basically, if you're an offense, you're going against a defense. You're saying, "Hey, here are the 10 plays, whatever, however many plays, 20, 30, 50 plays. It doesn't matter. We want to run, and here are the defenses that we think, based on film study, they'll line up and run against these different formations and looks. Let's practice against those looks and see how we'll handle those situations," right? That's normally how it works. So going into a practice session, your 20 periods, your 20 plays in team period, excuse me, you basically, everyone knows, coaches, players, when they're on the offense preparing for the opposing team, what the scout team defense is basically going to do, right? There's not a lot of mystery there. The problem when it comes to preparing for real games is that there's nothing but mystery. You really don't know what an opposing coach is going to do, especially when it's a guy like Flores. And if you're not used to that, you can get thrown in a game and you're expecting 80 blitzes and you get two. It completely throws you off. It forces your players to react. They're not prepared. They're kind of shell shocked. Your coaches are shell shocked. It can create chaos. This is actually what Bill Belichick, who obviously Flores was on Belichick's staff in New England for a number of years, was so good at. They would just completely change their game plan week to week, and you prepare all week for something, and then you line up and be something completely different. Rams fans, you're very familiar with this fact because you look back at the Super Bowl a number of years ago, that 13-3 defeat at the hands of the Patriots, what Belichick and Flores did defensively to absolutely befuddle McVay and Goff with that completely different defensive look, that six down defensive lineman covering up every gap with one linebacker. The Rams didn't have an answer because they weren't prepared for what the other guy would do, what the opposing defensive coach could do. And in this situation, once again, Sean McVay learning from his mistakes, going against what's the normal procedure. Again, most teams don't do this. In fact, I think the Rams are the only team I've heard of that is doing it in this postseason. They're saying, we're not preparing for looks. We're not preparing for how the defense is going to line up to us. We're trying to prepare for the man. It's like the old poker analogy, right? You play the man, and that's exactly what Sean McVay is doing right here, and I think it's a great move.